What's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to get started on building the ramps for the Focus. Stay tuned. As of right now, this is everything that I have for this project. I am not a woodworking expert at all. If you saw my last video, it was like my little review of using a miter saw basically for the first time. But this is what I have to build these ramps. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible with still being able to get, the best usability out of these things for the car. But for right now, I've got two 2x4s. I've got two plywood planks. They're each 4 feet long. And then my drill bits, right there is a little set of screwdriver bits for the drill. And then I've got a little level, a little angle finder, and then I bought these little hinges here. So my plan is to actually take the planks, cut them in half. That way I can fold them up when I'm not using them. I have my plank set up in the driveway here, and then I'm just going to use my protractor or angle finder, level, and measuring tape to just find out what angle I need to cut these things at.
Perfect.
So I was having a really hard time figuring out what angle I needed to cut these things at. I'm really good with math, but geometry is definitely not my strong suit. So I went ahead and went to Home Depot. I bought a couple of extra 2x4s. I was going to go ahead and buy another one anyway for the center, but I did buy one extra. That way I could kind of play around with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is go cut the 2 pieces of plywood in half, and then I will start working on the spare piece to figure out exactly what angle I need. I got both pieces of plywood cut in half, so I've got 4 pieces sitting over there now. I was a little nervous because my table saw is really small, and these were obviously larger than what the fence could block it off with. So I had to freehand it, but it actually came out really, really good. Everything is very, very even. So now I'm gonna move over to the miter saw. I'm gonna cut this extra 2x4 in half and start working on these angles. I have actually cut plenty of pieces off. You can see how many times I've tried here. And let me show you what I've got. So basically this is the best that it's gonna get. It's on it's a little bit past the 45 degree there, but what I had to do basically is sit it on here like this, and then find a reference point up front up here to put it on. That way it gives it the 45 degree from the miter, and then I angle it a little bit more to give it a little bit more of a slope. It's still not enough of an angle for what I need for the driveway, but since this is the most I'm going to get out of it, that's what I'm going to do. So now that I figured out how I'm going to do all of my angles, I can go ahead and cut all of my 2x4s. I only showed me cutting a couple of the pieces because it was taking too long to film everything, and I knew that the time lapse was going to be extremely long. So I only showed myself cutting a couple of pieces, but I got them all cut over here. I've got my plywood cut, but it is getting dark, so I'm going to go ahead and clean everything up, pack it all up for the night, and I will start again tomorrow. It's been a couple of days, and the fact that I couldn't get this angle just right was really bothering me. So I got on YouTube, I got on Google, and started doing some work to see if I could figure out a way to make this angle much sharper so that it would be flush with the driveway. And so here's what I've actually done. It actually worked out perfect. So I cut this board at a 45 degree angle. So it's just going to be mounted up here just like this. And then you can see the piece that I've already cut. You can see how sharp that angle is. And then basically what I've done is just put it right up in here just like that, so that it sits flush with this 45 degree board. And then I put the other 45 end on this side to push it up against it, and then basically just cut it just like that. And this came out to, let's see here, 45. So if we add 15 plus 30, so this is actually a 75 degree angle. Very sharp, but it's doing the job. So I figured all of this out so I can go cut all of my 2x4s like this. And then I'm still working out a way to get the plywood planks cut at the same angle. I've got all my 2x4s cut at the 75-degree angle. It wasn't that bad, but I did want to share with you guys the one thing that I did have an issue with is the blade guard. Once the saw was out here cutting the back edge back here on some of them, the blade guard would not touch the wood anymore. So what happened is once the blade guard would slip off, the guard would actually hit the side of the wood, push it over, and I got kicked back a couple of times, and once it actually spit a piece of wood over there. So I got lucky on that one. So just be careful if you are doing this or trying to do something like this. After that happened, I was definitely a little bit more careful in what I was doing. I definitely don't want to be getting hurt out here. But I got all of my planks cut, so I'm going to go try to make a little jig for cutting the plywood at the 75-degree angle, and I'm going to have to obviously use the table saw to do that because this is not long enough to cut with. So I'm going to go try to get all that together. I'm not going to film all that because it's going to be too long, but I will show you guys what I did after I am done with it. It's the next day. Here is the jig that I got set up for the table saw. Very simple. It's just some extra fiberboard that I had left over from building the subwoofer box. So 3 pieces. Obviously these 2 are flat on both ends over here, and then obviously flat right there and then up top. And then this angled piece right here, I cut a 45-degree there, 45-degree down here, use some wood glue to glue it all together, and then I've got screws in, and you can actually see the screws going in right there. So I'll get it all set up on the table saw, and then I'll show you how I'm actually going to cut this thing to get the 75-degree angle. This is how I have the jig set up. Basically all I did was clamp the plywood to the 45-degree side there. So basically what that's going to do is act like the board that I had on the miter saw. It's already creating a 45. So what I did is set my blade to a 30-degree angle so that will give me my 75-degree, and then I can just slide this thing across. So I'm going to get my fence set up in here to where it needs to be so that I can have everything lined up, and then I will take everything outside and get it cut. I got this piece of plywood cut, and as you can see, it is not exactly even all the way across. And what happened is I don't know why I didn't think of this ahead of time, but my little jig that I made up was not long enough. So I should have either made 2 this size or 1 a little bit longer. So what I had to do basically is attach it to one side, run it all the way through till about right there, because the jig starts to fall off the table saw. And then I had to take it off, turn the saw off, and then move this to the other side, and then basically start from there. It was a process, and it's not exactly easy or as safe as possible, but I am trying to do my best with it. So it is cut. It will lay flush against the driveway, or it should be at least close to flush. At least it won't have, this giant lip right here on there. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and go do the other 3, and I will film myself doing one of them and then just kind of show you everything that goes along with it. I got this second piece cut. You saw the process. I was a little bit more confident with this piece since I'd already done the first one underneath there. But I do wish I would have made the jig a little bit bigger or made 2 of the smaller ones. That way I could have made these cuts in just one pass. So I'm gonna go ahead and go cut these other 2 pieces out. And then the other thing I'm gonna have to do is cut the edges off of the 2x4s because they're gonna be a little bit too long. So I'm gonna go make all those cuts, and then I will start putting these things together. I got all of my plywood planks cut. So this is the first one that I did, second, third, and fourth. And if you actually go and look at them, you can tell that the fourth is better than the third, third's better than the second, second's better than the first. And I think I just got a little bit more, comfortable with doing it. So these turned out better there at the end. But the last thing that I've got to do is cut these 2x4 planks because they are going to be a little bit too long when they lay on the plywood there. So because all of these are a little bit different in lengths, what I'm going to do is label these 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then for each 2x4, it'll be 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C, and so forth. That way I don't get them confused and each one will line up perfectly on the plywood. I got all my 2x4 pieces cut, so I'm going to go ahead and add some wood glue and glue them to the plywood planks, and then I will let that dry for a little bit and then come back and drill my holes and put my screws in. I got all of my 2x4 pieces glued to the plywood. I actually let it dry overnight. So I'm gonna go ahead and start drilling my holes and get the screws in. I got all of the holes drilled, so I'm gonna go ahead and start putting all of the screws in here. I got all the screws connecting the plywood planks to the 2x4s underneath. So what I'm doing now is I'm playing around with the hinges that I bought. Originally what I wanted to do was basically just put it like this right here. Obviously it's gonna be closer, but just connect the two like this and then be able to fold them over. What I'm worried about though is just with this connecting to the plywood, I don't think it's gonna be strong enough. It still may not be strong enough. These plywood planks may break. But what I'm gonna do is use these little leftover blocks that I cut off of the 2x4s and just place them underneath here. And then what I'll do is drill through the plywood into these planks and then use not the hardware that these came with, but actually use the same screws that I put in here. These are actually 1 inch and 5/8, but I've got some 2-inch screws that I'm going to use to mount this to the plywood and then drill it into this plank right here. I went ahead and added some wood glue to the little pieces that I added on here. I'm not going to wait for it to dry overnight. I'm just going to let it dry for like an hour or two and then come back out here and drill the holes and get these hinges on. I brought the ramps inside. It's getting a little dark out there and cold, so it's a little bit warmer in here right now. But I let the glue dry on the little blocks for about 3 hours. So I'm going to turn them over, drill my holes, and get these hinges mounted up. I got this first ramp finished for the hinges. All that I did was line them up, use my marker to put dots where the holes are at, drilled my holes, and then put all the screws in. So you can see here, it just flips up, hinges up, folds all the way over, and there we go. So I'm gonna get this other one done, and then tomorrow, since it's already dark out, hopefully it doesn't rain and I can try these things out. I got my ramps down here. As you can see that it's not completely flush. It's just because I couldn't get the angle exactly right, but it looks good. So what's gonna end up happening though is I will basically drive up onto it. It's gonna push that down. Once I get to the center, it'll level it out exactly how it is now. And then once I get to the end, it will actually pop that up and then I can roll off. So you guys saw what happened. My original plan was to have the crease of these ramps line up with this indention in the sidewalk, but when the car moved forward, it basically pushed the ramps to where this side leveled out. If I would have done it all over again, I would have left this side the same way, and then on the street side of it, instead of cutting the angle like this, I would have cut it like this, so that when I was going on or coming to the road, I would have come off at an angle, and then when I was backing up, I would have been able to back up onto an angle. The only bad side, or the only downside to this, is that when I do back up over it, I have to push this side down first with the tire. It works, it's not a big deal, it's just that you feel it, but they do work, and I will catch you guys next time.